Yo. What's up, everybody? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. How's everyone doing? Can everybody see me and hear me all right? I just ate a bowl of cereal, so apologies if there's any like cereal crumbs in my teeth. Also, it's storming here, like lightning and thunder, so hopefully my power doesn't get knocked out. Also, I feel like I slept kind of wrong on my neck. I have like a what is it called? A crick in my neck or whatever it's called. So that kind of sucks. A lot of things going on today, I guess. But it's all good. We're here. Also, I'm a little bit congested. I feel like that might be allergies, though. I had a cold like last week, so it might be remnants of that. I got tested for COVID and all that, and all those tests came up negative, so I think it was just legit a cold. And I didn't really have any coughing, and I didn't have a fever, so I didn't think it was COVID. But it was still pretty inconvenient and unpleasant. But I'm doing well. Question, do you believe that race is a social construct? What does that mean to you? Well, yeah, race is definitely a social construct. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else it would be, to be honest. It's not really. I mean, there's some connection between what we describe as race and genetics and evolution, but the way that we talk about race in general, we talk about it in a socially constructed way. The way that we define race, which is very nebulous to begin with, is very socially constructed. And there's no really like objective qualifiers for what makes a race in the way that we normally talk, or at least the way that we talk about it in the United States. I think it's a little bit different depending on where you live. But yeah, I've talked about this in videos a lot. Like race generally is based on how people look, like their skin color and their, their features, facial features, things of that nature. But there's no really objective qualifier for it. Because there's so many exceptions to any rule that you can make about what makes a race a race. I think an example I used in a video like a while back is like, like what makes someone black? Like if you compare someone like Halle Berry to someone like Rosario Dawson, they both kind of have similar skin tones. And, obviously they don't really look the same. Like they don't have similar features. But most people say that Halle Berry is black. And Halle Berry is mixed race, by the way. And most people say that Rosario Dawson is not black. They say that she is a Latino woman. So it's like, what is the definition? Who decides it? Just want to say I really loved your video about blackwashing. Really touched on the nuance of the subject, and you gave fruitful commentary as opposed to just saying what is and isn't whitewashing. I appreciate that. Thank you for the nice words. I mean, I just try to have nuanced conversations in my videos. I mean, I think people who watch me kind of understand that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm not really here to preach to the choir. Although, I mean, I'll end up doing that a lot because I think most people who follow my channel probably have similar values on certain things. But I don't know. I just want to talk about things that I think are interesting in an interesting way. I don't want to just say, here's the thing and it's bad. And that's the video. There may be things that I feel that way about, but I don't really think that's a very interesting video most of the time. I think I remember you saying you moved. If so, how's the new place? Yeah, I moved in September or like the end of September. And I love the new place. I don't know if I've said this on stream before, but this is my first time ever living alone. And it's dope. Should have did it a long time ago. Well, I couldn't really do it before because it's kind of expensive to live on your own, but I got to a point where I was like over having roommates. It's just not very ideal to not have your own space and have to like deal with other people's whatever, it could be whatever it is. Sometimes, it's just better to be able to make all the decisions for the apartment and have everything set up in a way that's comfortable for you. It's better. More expensive though. How does one get into D&D? I have no friends that play. Well, first of all, have you asked your friends if they're interested in playing? Because it's not true to say that I didn't have any friends that play. But what I did is I literally asked some friends, hey, do you want to play D&D? They really had no specific desire to play D&D. Well, one of them did. But the rest of them didn't really have any specific desire to play D&D before I asked them. They didn't really know that much about it. But they just thought it might be fun and they try it out. And now as far as I can tell, they're all pretty into it. So I think you should not assume that they don't want to play. You should at least ask. I also don't know your situation. I don't know how many people there are in your community or your town or your social circles or anything like that. But in my life, there's a lot of people that played. They weren't like necessarily my best friends or anything, but I had associates or friends of friends that played. I feel like people are always looking for people to join their groups, or at least people are always open to people joining their groups. Not always, but maybe if you ask around. But if you literally can't find anyone to play, you can just play online. There are tons of Discord groups for D&D. You can go on Roll20. Roll20 has a section where people are looking for groups, looking for people to join their groups. You can go on Facebook. There's several D&D groups on Facebook where you can ask to join online groups. So yeah, there's lots of options. I feel like you did not answer what that means on a personal level. Are you black? If someone else has decided that you are black, how does that feel? So I think, and I talked about this in videos before, I think that there is a difference between race and cultural identity. But I do think that sometimes we use those things interchangeably, and we kind of overlap those things onto each other, and they are obviously related to each other, but I don't think that they're the same thing. So like, I mean, the example that I use a lot is so like if you apply for a job and you're like a white person, like a fair-skinned white person, but your name happens to be like Jamal or something, in that moment when that employer is looking at your resume or your application, you are a black. Probably. They're probably going to assume that you're black. So in that moment, you're black. Until they see you, and you may not feel black, you may not, think you're black, but in that moment, you're black. And that's how race kind of works. Race is based on people's perceptions of you. You're gonna get treated, if that person assumes that you're black, they're gonna react to you as if you're black. They're gonna treat you like you're black. And that's a very specific example, but the same thing goes with perceptions. If you are a light-skinned person who has mixed heritage, or even if you have just straight up black parents but you pass as white, you're probably going to be treated like a white person in life. So I mean, I don't really see the distinction between being treated as if you're white and being white. But self-identity is completely different. The way that you identify yourself is a purely internal thing, and you're free to identify in whichever way makes the most sense to you. Now, for a lot of people, and perhaps even for most people, those two things kind of overlap. Like me, most people, when they see me, probably all people, when they see me, identify me as a black dude. And I also identify myself as a black dude. So those things overlap for me, but they may not always overlap for other people. I did see the Street Fighter 6 teaser. I'm a big fan of the Street Fighter series, so I mean, I'm gonna play it regardless, but I'm interested to see what it's gonna be like. I would totally watch a 5-second video of you saying "thing bad" over and over. Well, I don't really find that very interesting. 5 hours? I don't think that I would make that. You think people tend to hate the feeling of their views being challenged, for example, being told an opposing view that sounds strong enough to try and throw you out of your old perspective. Well, yeah, people, I mean, I think everyone hates their views being challenged. Well, I won't say everyone, but yeah, I mean, I think it's human nature to feel very hesitant when people challenge things, especially things that you're very convinced about. Do I like Aaron Magruder? What's your opinion of Boondocks? There are times I feel judged for saying I like it or if I quote from it. I mean, I like the Boondocks. I didn't know that it was controversial to like the Boondocks. I will say most people know about the Boondocks from the cartoon show, but the comic strip I think was way better than the cartoon show. But the show was hilarious. I think the show was less interesting on the like political and philosophical level. The show was just really funny, but the comic strip actually had some really cool insights and commentary on it, and it was also funny. So am I playing KOF 15? I am not actually. I mean, I'll probably try it out. I've never been super interested in KOF. I don't know. KOF 14 looked really cool. KOF 15, I kind of hate how it looks, but you know, that's a minor complaint. If the gameplay is good, then I'll like it. KOF 14 looked really cool though. I was going to ask, what's with the red dread? Does it mean anything, or is it for just cause? It's just cause I think it looks cool. There's two of them, by the way, not just one. There's a great paper about names in school and its effect on grades. I think I've heard about that paper. I never saw it, like I never actually read it though. But there's several studies about job applicants being treated differently because of their names. So I would not be surprised if there's similar things when it comes to school settings. Do I Twitch stream at all? Yes, I'm live on Twitch right now. I stream on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Most of the time when I stream, I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube. Opinions on transracial people. I think the answer to that is pretty complex. I did a video about it. It's called Transracial Revisited. I think that's the most in-depth answer that I've given on that. I think it's an interesting and complex topic. I'm not really convinced that transracial kind of like makes sense given what we know about race and transgender. Like, given what we know about those two things, transracial doesn't really line up with either of those things. And given that, I feel like it can be a kind of problematic and kind of maybe delegitimize, or may have the effect of delegitimizing the experiences of race and being transgender that other people have. What do you think about the whole discourse with debate bros and their supposed underlying racism towards POC and in particular black people? Well, I mean, I don't really know the specifics of that discourse, but we have talked about how communities, just life in communities and the world in general is generally, you know, generally has racist elements. That's just how the world is. So being that the debate bro community or whatever is part of the world, I would not expect there to be elements of racism within it. But I don't know the specifics. I haven't specifically seen any of the debate bros saying racist stuff. Like, you know, maybe I don't really follow them that close, but you know, I don't know. What's your take on the Joe Rogan controversies? I think Joe Rogan is just one of those people that the left has sort of selected Joe Rogan as one of their villains. And so there's a certain point where people are just kind of trying to find any reason to like jump on somebody. I mean, I think Joe Rogan can be pretty cringe, but I mean, you can say that about like anybody. Like he says, I think Joe Rogan's a pretty smart dude, but he also says weird shit a lot. But again, you can say that for a lot of people. I mean, I've said weird shit before. I think so. The main criticism I have of Joe Rogan is that he has been like, I would describe him as vaccine hesitant, and because of his large platform, he most likely has probably convinced a lot of people to not get vaccinated, and that's a problem because this is like a major health issue in the world. And we need people to get vaccinated so we can begin to sort of curb the spread of COVID. But I think what he has mostly been criticized for now is because he has invited people on his show that say a lot of harmful, false, you know, bad things on his show. And that's, you know, that's a whole discussion that we've had many times throughout the years about, should we platform people? Should we deplatform people who say bad stuff? You know, that's an ongoing argument that will probably never go away. I don't know, I used to be more like, so I think that's just a question that each person who has a platform or who has the ability to give someone a platform, that's just a question that they have to answer on their own. I mean, we can talk about more about that if you want, but at the end of the day, I think Joe Rogan has the right to have whoever he wants on his show, and we can criticize it, but at the end of the day, he can have whoever he wants on his show. But I do think it's a bit weird for people to criticize Joe Rogan for things that other people on his show say, like criticize that person. Like, I feel like it's a misplaced sort of blame almost. All right, hold on. I got some donations, or I got some super chat. JH, thank you for the super chat. What's that? 109. That's the Swedish one, right? 109 Swedish krona. Your recent video on whitewashing was really good and to the point. Thank you very much. No way. Thank you for the $9.99. Love your videos. Thank you for answering our questions. No problem. That's kind of the whole point of the stream. I guess I'll go back and see what questions. Well, I don't know. So if I miss a question, you can try answering it again. I can't guarantee that I will answer every single question, but I'll try to answer as many as I can. And sometimes I'll get behind in chat because I'll give a long answer like I just did. What do I think about Destiny? I think Destiny's fine. I think he's like kind of an asshole, but I think he would agree with that. Although he has been sort of chilling out lately. So maybe it's not completely accurate these days, because I think he's made a conscious effort to be less of an asshole. But I would say that used to be like one of his defining qualities, is that he was just like very, very caustic and rude to people. But he's clearly smart, and I think he's very competent at defending the ideas that he has. So I respect that. People should have the sense to listen to medical professionals, not people like Joe Rogan when it comes to COVID. Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't think Joe Rogan has positioned himself as an expert on COVID. The thing is, Joe Rogan has had actual medical professionals on his show that have spread what appears to be misinformation about COVID. Recently, people talk about how Bosch is a huge debate lefty, and he said a black woman called Professor Flowers' position was similar to Hitler and Nazis, and people were saying how that's racist. Well, I really don't know the context of that, so it's hard for me to comment. I will say this though, and this might be a controversial thing to say. Usually when there is a controversy or some kind of drama between a content creator or a public figure and like the social media community, I usually initially give the public figure the benefit of the doubt, because the mob is usually out of control and usually exaggerates the points that they make. This is not to say that the community is always wrong, but I'd say like 80% of the time, usually the mob blows things out of proportion. But obviously I wouldn't comment before I know what's going on. But admittedly, that's my sort of initial tendency, is to assume that the community is probably taking things out of context and exaggerating, because that's what happens a lot of the time. Joe Rogan saying he doesn't think 21-year-olds should get vaccinated is what's fucked up. He's suggesting others not to get vaccinated. If he doesn't want to do that, then don't, but don't tell others. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that has been my major criticism of Joe Rogan, is the fact that he's most likely going to convince a lot of people to not get vaccinated. And the only reason that is important is because this is such a massive global health issue. Like, if it was something that didn't matter that much, I don't think that I would really give a shit. I would say, oh, that's just Joe Rogan saying something weird again. But this particularly is really important. So yeah, go get vaccinated, everyone, if that is available to you. Get that booster. The thing with Twitter mobs is they target people more so to attack and target people than actually fix whatever the problem is they claim they're attacking. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's definitely the problem. I mean, I think a lot. I rarely get the sense from Twitter or social media in general that they're interested in actually like fixing problems or making the world better. People just kind of want. I think to some extent people just like drama and they like being involved in conflict and they like egging people on. But also if there's someone that they perceive as being bad or not deserving of their success, they just kind of desire some kind of revenge or retribution against that person. I have no idea what you're talking about, Andy. Do I like Vosh? I don't know how I feel about him since those chat logs that came out for him 2 years ago. I really don't keep up with Vosh. I've talked about this before, but I'm not the target audience for Vosh. So his content doesn't really appeal to me at all. But I don't think it's designed for people like me. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about him as a person. And I don't think that no one should claim to have any insight about what any of these people, including me or any public figure or content creator that you don't know personally, you shouldn't claim to have any insight to what they're like as a person personally. You can critique their persona, their online persona, and you can decide whether you like that or not. But yeah, I have no comments about what he's like as a person. I don't know if he's a nice guy or a trustworthy person or whatever. But his online persona seems to be like almost directly copied from Destiny. And I've talked about how Destiny is kind of known for being an asshole, and Bosch kind of does the same thing. But you know, people like that shit. You know, young fucking white men are interested in that kind of content. But I'm not a young white man, so I don't think I'm the target audience. Also, when he has guests that bring up statistics, he always says, but can we trust those statistics? Never questioning his own sources. Yeah, are you talking about Joe Rogan? Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen him do that a couple of times. I think, I mean, I think that Joe Rogan is, I think one of the problems with, maybe not a problem, because I mean, it's probably also why it's so popular, but Joe Rogan doesn't prepare for his interviews or conversations. He just kind of shows up and, you know, just has a off the cuff conversation. But because of that, I don't think he's ever really prepared to really like debate any of the points that are being made. So if he like believes something, he's not really prepared to be challenged on that because he hasn't really like looked it up, I guess. But I think that I get the sense that Joe Rogan, given enough time and evidence, will change his mind if there's evidence that says such. I don't really get the sense that he's that stubborn to where he just refuses to believe something that's fully proven by evidence. But maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, I don't know. It's Joe Rogan is an interesting case because he has so much content out there. Like, he has put out more content than most people who make stuff. So there's a lot, and most of the stuff that he does is off the cuff, not prepared, not, you know. So it's an interesting case. Like, you can probably find a clip of him saying almost anything just because there's so much stuff of him. But I've watched a lot of Joe Rogan's podcast, and this is kind of why this is one of the reasons why I'm really hesitant to just rain down criticisms on people, because when you hear people criticize Joe Rogan, it is like obvious when they haven't really listened to his show very much. Like, I know, like, a lot of people talk about Joe Rogan like he's some kind of like far right conservative or something like that. And if you've watched, you know, even just a couple episodes of his podcast, you know that that's not true. Like, Joe Rogan's positions are pretty progressive on almost everything. So it's just things like that. Like, and again, it goes back to what I was saying. Whenever there's like a huge community backlash against a public figure, I generally initially side with the public figure, because a lot of times people just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And in this particular case, I can tell when people don't know what they're talking about, because I've actually watched quite a bit of Joe Rogan. Not so much recently, but there was a good year or so where I watched like every podcast. Like, I waited for the podcast to come out and I watched every single one. So I developed a decent idea of what kind of, you know, ideas that Joe Rogan has, or at least the ideas that he spreads on his podcast. And I definitely disagree with a lot of stuff, but you know, when people talk about him in certain ways, it's like, okay, you really don't know what you're talking about. I think all of us in general, left, right, centrist, whatever, tend to be strong in our beliefs and disproportionately do not question our own beliefs or sources. Yeah, like I said, I think that's probably human nature. But I mean, part of the beauty of being a human is we have the rational capacity to change our mind. But we have to be willing to admit that we might be wrong about stuff. And I think if you just come at everything with that mindset, like, you can believe something very strongly, but if you acknowledge from the top that you might be wrong, I think that's just a good place to start, because you might be wrong. No one is perfect or infallible. And I think that's also a good benchmark to know when maybe you're fucking up a little bit. Like, if you have a belief and you have and about that belief you think you have no you can't conceive of the possibility of you being wrong about that, you're probably fucking up. I talk about national issues a lot, but do you think I'll ever do local issues, Alabama or your hometown? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that would be super interesting to people to watch a video specifically about Alabama. I mean, I could give it a try, but I mean, the main reason I don't do videos about it is because it doesn't seem like a very a thing that a lot of people would be interested in. I mean, I feel bad a lot of the time that my videos are so United States centric, because I have a lot of viewers that don't live in the United States. But I do know that United States politics is kind of spread around the world, and a lot of people around the world actually follow United States politics. So that kind of, you know, I understand that it still could be interesting in that way. but I don't know that people around the world and around the United States follow Alabama politics. Do I think Biden will run in 2024? Probably, unless he's like too old. I think most people who run for president do it twice. What do I think about BTSM? What is BTSM? Have I heard of Goddamn It Malcolm? I have not heard of Goddamn It Malcolm. I also think that if people were willing to admit that they might be wrong, that would just make discussing things a lot easier. People would be much less combative when they have discussions with people. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm a master at this myself, but you know, I try. Because I think it's important to understand that although you need to understand you might be wrong, sometimes not the mere fact that someone challenges you does not mean that that challenge is valid. Sometimes people say dumb shit, and I think it's okay to admit that. But you need to acknowledge that maybe you might be the one saying dumb shit. And also, sometimes when people do say dumb shit, you can still learn from it. You can still broaden your perspective. I mean, dumb shit, I mean, I'm kind of like making a joke, but that's kind of a more unnecessarily rude way to put it. Sometimes people say things that are not necessarily supported by the facts. Like an example I had a couple years ago. Like for those that know me, I am very, very anti-guns. I think guns are terrible and stupid and kind of serve no good purpose. And I've done a lot of research about guns, and I've had a lot of discussions about guns, and I have yet to really find a good argument for why people should be allowed to have guns. But in those discussions, I have several friends who are gun owners and a couple of friends who are gun enthusiasts. And I have learned a lot about guns, and I've learned a lot about why people like guns and why they think guns are useful. And I think it has broadened my perspective and made me think about it in ways that I didn't think about it before. So I'm glad that I had those conversations, even though it didn't completely change my mind. I think that it made my perspective more nuanced on the subject. What's up, Alex? Do you think that people that don't do research before forming opinions tend to be more hostile towards others for their views than those that do a lot of research before forming opinions? Well, it depends, because I mean, it could be like basically an example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the people is it's like basically people who are the wronger people are, the more confident they are in their wrongness, or the more confident they are in their rightness, I should say. But I think also when you have, so when you believe something without evidence, a lot of times the reason you believe that is because you believe you have uncovered some kind of like hidden truth that they're not telling us, or that you know, that's hidden from normal people. And when you believe something like that, it's really hard to convince you that you're wrong about it. Like if evidence and facts aren't what cause you to come to a conclusion, then evidence and facts are not going to be what changes your mind either. I've never seen any of the Crocodile Dundee movies. Do you think if America improved its education system, that citizens will be more politically involved and less prone to conspiracy theories? I don't know. I think that's it's a broad question, because it's like, what does it mean? What does it mean to improve the education system? Because there are a lot of educated people who are also conspiracy theorists. And there are a lot of uneducated people who are very, very politically involved. Especially nowadays. Do you have any thoughts about Chappelle landing a bunch of new specials? I personally think cancel culture is just a new term for public outrage criticism. Do you have any thoughts about it? I don't know. I mean, Chappelle, it makes sense, I guess. Chappelle makes Netflix a lot of money. I assume they're on Netflix. I don't know. I haven't really heard about it. As for cancel culture, I did a video about cancel culture, which I think kind of sums up what I think about it. I think cancel culture is just a term that is used as a kind of catch-all term for a lot of different things. And again, I was talking about earlier how I tend to assume that, you know, Twitter mobs and social media dog piles are usually exaggerating or don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like Dave Chappelle's another good example. Like, and I don't know, I hesitate to talk about this because I don't myself want a fucking mob coming after me. But it's one of those things, like when Dave Chappelle released that special, The Closer, and a lot of people were talking about it, it was very clear to me that a lot of people who were criticizing it did not actually watch it. You can tell when someone didn't watch the thing that they're talking about, because the way that they are quoting it is very clear that it was out of context and things of that nature. So that was a big part of it. And this is not to like totally defend that thing, but I also um, I kind of understand the reason that people have problems with it, but I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the criticisms of it. But yeah, when it comes to cancel culture, you know, the idea of cancel culture is clearly more than just public outrage and criticism. I don't know, like a lot of people say that cancel culture doesn't exist. Like the idea of people getting online and trying to get people fired, trying to get people to lose sponsors, trying to get people to lose jobs, that clearly exists. Like it is very disingenuous to say that people don't do that, because people do that. And I think it's obvious, very clear, that people actually get online and try to get people fired. That is absolutely something that happens. Now, obviously, there are many people, and perhaps Dave Chappelle is one of them. There are many people that are worthy of criticism, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with criticizing people online. And I think a lot of what we refer to cancel culture is just, you know, legitimate criticism and outrage at, you know, at people who have done things that we consider to be harmful, and I think that's fine. But there is a level where criticism can become harassment and can become unnecessarily cruel. And again, that's also a part of what people call cancel culture. So I just think the term cancel culture it's used too broadly to refer to too many different things. Is it true that Alabama has the worst health care? I don't know for sure. I would not be surprised though. I don't know. I don't know if Alabama has the worst health care though. I don't know if it's that bad actually. Alabama has some of the best hospitals in the country actually. But as far as like healthcare access, maybe it's pretty bad. Do you think social media has incentivized people to be disproportionately more performative as opposed to actually being politically or socially involved in what they believe in? Well, yeah, sure. It's hard for me to speak on it because I'm actually a content creator, so what I do is like naturally performative. But I understand the dopamine that you get when someone clicks that little heart on your post. It's like a drug. And especially when you become somewhat popular. Like, I just made a tweet. I mean, I don't like... Sometimes I make like a tweet that I know is not going to be like super popular. But, you know, like I just made a tweet and it got like 70 likes. And I'm like, oh man, that's not a lot of likes. But it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it was just a random tweet about a TV show. But it still feels weird. I want more likes. So yeah, and it does incentivize people to just kind of say shit so that they can get engagement rather than actually say shit because they actually believe it. I need to say that calling out celebrities for their bad takes is not cancel culture. Well, I mean, like I said, the term cancel culture is very nebulous. It's really hard to determine what cancel culture even is. And calling out celebrities for their bad takes is also very broad because there's many ways that can look, which I've covered. Sometimes people will type out a reasonable a reasonable criticism of a celebrity. It's like, hey, this is something that you did that was bad, and here's why, and that's fine. Sometimes it's like very cruel. It's like, you suck and you should go jump off a bridge. Or sometimes it's like, hey, employer of this person, look at what they said, you should fire them. So what counts as calling out celebrities? Because there's some ways where I think that's fine and some ways where I think it's kind of whack. The stream is a chill vibe. It can be discussing the most divisive subject in history, in popular discourse. Sorry, the chat fucking skipped. It could be discussing the most divisive subject in popular discourse, and it still feels like a meditation app. Well, I guess that's a good thing. I've never seen American Me. Do I know Nick Marina? Nikki? I don't know that person. What is your opinion on Eminem kneeling at halftime? As in, was it support or capitalizing? Capitalizing on what? I don't understand what is meant by capitalizing. Like, what? How does he stand to gain from kneeling at halftime? I mean, Eminem pretty much throughout his career has shown support for the black community, so I don't. It seems to be in line with his general disposition. Some of my friends took it as a PR move to be talked about. I mean, I think that Eminem knew that people would talk about it, sure. But I don't think that is mutually exclusive from it being genuine. Especially, like I said, considering what we know about Eminem's history of supporting social causes in the black community specifically. Like, I make videos hoping that people watch them and hoping that I get views and hoping that I get money, but that doesn't mean that what I say in the videos is not genuine. But, you know, I don't know Eminem, and that's, you know, that's something to always keep in mind. We don't know these people. We don't know their hearts. We don't know what they think about when they wake up in the morning. All we can do is conjecture. And that goes both ways. I think that means that we shouldn't assume the worst, but we don't have to assume the best either. But if I had to guess, I would probably say that was probably just a genuine show of solidarity, given what I know about Eminem and his, his standing as a public figure. I don't think that Eminem is like in need of press. I mean, he's like in a point of his career where he kind of can do whatever he wants. It seems Eminem is more popular among black people than most non-black celebs. Some even call him the best rapper of all rappers. Well, yeah, I mean, he makes hip hop music, which is very popular among black people, and he came up in this sort of underground hip hop scene that was dominated by black people. And the reason that people call him the best rapper is because he's a really good rapper. Like, there are a lot of white rappers who are not as good as Eminem, in my opinion, at least. From on a technical level, I think Eminem is clearly one of the best rappers ever. Like, just even like on an objective level, just the skill at putting words together in a clever way that it also sounds poetic and clever. There is like very few people that are as good as Eminem, and it just, I mean, that has really nothing to do with the fact that he's white. It's just a talent that he happens to have. Also, there are components of class, race, gender, and ableism in the cancel culture discussion. One of the most successful cancel culture campaigns on the internet was Gamergate. I agree completely. Cancel culture absolutely is not one. It's not related to one political affiliation. It seems to be associated with the left a lot because the left does it a lot. But they're not the only people who do it. Like, the right canceled James Gunn. They got him fired for a little while. And Gamergate is a very example. I mean, a lot of Gamergate was just harassment. I don't even necessarily know if it was like, if there was much criticism involved. It was just people being hateful a lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, the things that people did to, like, what was her name? Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian and things like that. It's definitely on the same wavelength for sure. Aside from that event, did you see like the show? Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl halftime show, I think, was at least top 2 or top 3 halftime shows of all time, in my opinion. And obviously I'm biased because it's the music that I grew up with. Probably an older or younger generation would not agree that it was one of the best halftime shows ever, but I think it was. I think Prince is the only one that I would say might be better, because Prince's show was dope, and I think Prince had the benefit of not having like 10 other performers there, so you really got to experience the show. Because the halftime show, I feel like is too short in general, but I understand why, because most people are there to watch a football game. But when you have like 8 performers, it really feels even shorter. So Prince had the benefit of not having as many performers. And also, it was just dope. And it started raining while he was playing Purple Rain. Like, come on. Like, there's nothing like that is ever going to happen again. The right has more aggressive methods than just canceling. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, people talk about like horseshoe theory, like how the extremes of the left and the right are the same. And I halfway disagree and I halfway agree. Like, if the idea is that the left can be fucking bad, then sure, yeah. But the idea that the left and the right are equally bad is just, I don't agree with that at all. The right is way worse. The extremes of the right are on a whole different level. And it's important to acknowledge that. But that doesn't excuse people on the left from being shitty. Like, that doesn't give you a license to be shitty. Just because they are worse or they do it too. That's a poor excuse for being shitty. I forgot that Michael Jackson did a halftime show. I haven't seen it in a while though. I need to go back and watch it because a lot of people are like, y'all are forgetting about the Michael Jackson show. And I don't remember it, but Michael Jackson obviously is like one of the best performers of all time, so I'm sure it was very good. When even was that? How old was I when that happened? It was 1993. So in 1993, I was 7 years old. So yeah, I barely remember that. Do more people watch the halftime show than the game? Nah, absolutely not. Generally, I don't think most people are very interested in the halftime show because it's usually not very good. Because it's like this fucking 5 minute, 8 minute set, and it's kind of random. It's a toss up whether the artist is going to be someone that you like. And they've been better about this lately, but in the past it's usually been lip synced and people pretending to play instruments. But I think in the past few years it's been better. Like, they've actually been legitimate live performances. So I think most people aren't interested in the halftime show. Most people watch for the commercials and for the game. Dixie Chicks and Sinead O'Connor are some of the OGs of cancel culture. Yeah, absolutely. There were early examples of people being canceled. Why do you think it's so hard to have nuance in public discourse? Well, I don't think that people are interested in that usually. People just want to believe what they believe and they don't really want to be challenged. And I get it. It's stressful. It's exhausting to have to like think about shit all the time and be introspective and question things. It's exhausting. I mean, most people, we just want to like get up and live our lives and not have to worry about things. But unfortunately, that doesn't really lead to a productive conversation about the world. And also, politicians kind of take advantage of this sort of intellectual laziness that we have. Because I think, back in the day, I think people were like, we don't really have to think about things that much. All we have to do is vote, and we let the politicians sort everything out. We just got to make sure we vote for the right ones. And if they're not great, then we vote them out, we get new ones. But now we're learning that that is not a great strategy because politicians are kind of the worst. But I think it's getting better. I think people are becoming more politically active. Well, I don't know if it's getting better because social media, I think, was a big step backwards. But we're at least learning that we can't put our trust in politicians fully because they don't really give a shit about us, really. So people are becoming more politically active and standing up for what they believe in. All I can do is try to spread ideas that I think are good, and I think it's better to spread not specific ideas, but just ideals, you know, such as compassion and being thoughtful and things like that. But, you know, it just goes back to people being uncomfortable with the idea that they might be wrong about stuff. And this happens a lot. I mean, I think it happens across the board, but it definitely happens the older you get. I mean, I think younger people are like very stubborn, but I also think that younger people are much more likely to change their minds about things, even if they don't think that they are. But older people, it is very hard to change people's minds the older they get. In America, horseshoe theory comes up against a crazy ass Overton window. The far left in the US is European style social democracy, and the far right is evangelical white proto-fascism. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I mean, there are definitely communists in the United States. But I understand what you're saying. Will I adopt you? Absolutely not. It seems the right gets more and more extreme as time goes on, to the point where it's incomprehensible to the fullest extent of incomprehensible. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, well, it's, you know, going back to the Overton window. The Overton window has been steadily shifting right. I think that's pretty clear to anyone that's paying attention. At least I would argue that. But the extreme right has been a problem in the United States for decades. It's very interesting. Like, if anyone here would like to do a deep dive on that, it's something that has been happening for a while, and in fact, you know, the FBI has been sort of silently investigating far right extremism for decades. They haven't really done much about it, but they've acknowledged that it's a problem that's been brewing in the United States. And, you know, a lot of it started to boil to the surface after the election of Trump, but it's been there for decades. Not that there wasn't emotionally charged people before social media and the internet, but social media arranges the contingencies to reward knee-jerk emotionally charged arguments and do not reward arguments which are thoughtful and nuanced. Yeah, I mean, you say in your opinion, but I think that's factually true. Especially, I mean, did y'all see that thing that came out about Facebook like a couple months ago, where someone leaked internal things from Facebook, where Facebook's algorithm, I don't even know if it was specifically the algorithm, it might have been actually human input, but Facebook knew that its algorithm was rewarding content that was specifically meant to design to spark outrage and hate. Even, like, you know, on Facebook you can react to something with the anger emoji. Posts that got more angry emojis were pushed by the algorithm. The algorithm specifically rewarded posts that people reacted to with the anger emoji. And Facebook was well aware that that was happening. So I think it's beyond just opinion. I think that's just true. I had a bizarre moment on Twitter the other day. I don't know how many of you follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, by the way, @the1janitor. But when I go to my Twitter homepage, let me see what it looks like now on my phone. So I'm really into D&D and RPGs and stuff. So my homepage, like my Twitter homepage, has learned that, and my Twitter home timeline is mostly stuff about D&D now. But I had a weird moment the other day where almost every post in my timeline was like just drama. Like it was like these super controversial tweets about drama in the TTRPG community, these massive like hot takes. It was wild. I don't know what was going on, but just my whole page was just drama. And it wasn't even politics. It was D&D stuff. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So yeah, I mean, these algorithms definitely reward outrage. That's why it took so long for YouTubers to sort of to become popular, YouTubers who were making nuanced videos, because it just wasn't rewarding that sort of thing. And even now, I think the trend is going back in the other direction, because we were just talking about Debate Bros and people like Bosch and Destiny and shit, who are pretty popular, but you know, they make this very sort of inflammatory, sensational content because that's just what all algorithms seem to reward. What are your views on more radical leftist ideas such as anarchism? I think the question needs to be more specific. I'm not an anarchist. I don't. It's not my preferred state. But I think the question needs to be more specific for me to give a interesting answer. I think most of the actual communists in the US are on Twitter. I mean, it probably seems like that, but there's definitely local communist groups and stuff. There's one in Alabama. Like there are communists. You can, if you look it up, you can probably find a communist group in your area that probably has meetings somewhere. Why won't you adopt me? Well, I don't want to adopt anybody. It's nothing with you specifically. Have I watched the Vox Machina TV show? I've watched episodes 1 to 3. I need to finish it. I haven't finished it yet. What if the profit motive and the need to sell ads move Facebook to promote more angry content? I imagine more contented people are less likely to buy stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a profit motive. I don't think there's any other reason to do that. It's just engagement. So if a post engages more people, that means more people will see it. So Facebook is like, we're going to show this post to more people because we have learned that people engage with this post a lot. People read it, people share it. So we're going to show this post a lot, and we're going to put some ads alongside this post because people are engaged with this post, which means a lot of people are going to see it, which means a lot of people are going to see our ad. So, I mean, that's just one like basic example of how that works. But like, I mean, Facebook, I don't know Facebook's entire business strategy because they make a lot of money by selling to like businesses as well. Or by like, I don't think they make money. I think most of their money comes from the people who I don't know how to say this right. I mean, I think they care more about selling ads than they do about people watching the ads, but I guess that people would not pay them if they didn't get results from showing their ads. So it goes hand in hand. Shit going down the D&D community. Yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of things where I don't know. I don't want to get too specific, but it'll be stuff like, oh, here's someone calling out some toxic member in their community, or someone with a hot take about how D&D sucks and you should play a different game, or someone else with a hot take about how this public figure in the online D&D community is actually an asshole. It's like it was like my whole timeline was that. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, I think part of the issue is we need to keep talking about the problems with these algorithms, because I can see that these social media companies do feel the pressure. I mean, I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to have to be testifying in front of the Senate every month like he has been in the past. Like, he probably doesn't want to have to do that with his life. And if they don't do something about how Facebook is ruining the world, then, he might have to do that. I mean, maybe he's okay with that. I don't know. He might be like, hey, I might have to testify in court, but when I go home, I'm still a billionaire. Maybe that's how he feels about it. I kind of doubt it though. Like, I think he doesn't want his company to be thought of as being evil and ruining the world. But obviously more pressure needs to be put on these people and on these platforms. And I think we've even seen changes be made, and maybe even pressure on the advertisers, because advertisers don't really want to be associated with hate and negativity either. And I think if it was made more clear that that's what's happening, they probably have something to say about it. Alabama seems like hostile territory for communists. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there are that many communists, but I'm just saying it exists throughout the country. But no, I mean, it depends on where you live. Like, we don't want to generalize people. There's a lot of different types of people in Alabama, as there is anywhere. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, which is the most populated city in Alabama, and it is a pretty diverse city. And there's all kinds of different people here. I actually have a friend who's a socialist who lives, in Birmingham, and I'm sure there's a lot of people. Like, let me see if I can. Yeah. Oh no, that's not right. That doesn't exist. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find a communist meeting or something in Alabama. There was a communist party in the 50s or in the 40s. I know there's a socialist party. But yeah, you know. So like, this is a Facebook group, but this is the Socialist Party of Central Alabama. There's 1,000 people in this group, a little over 1,000, including 2 of my friends. So I probably shouldn't leak my messages like that, but that's cool. I don't think it was anything too crazy. What's my D&D character class? I am the dungeon master in my current game. I don't think it's just the algorithm. I skimmed the paper that found people moderated their own opinions just as they needed to explain and think it out. So 180 character format is a problem on its own. Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely been many comments about just the general format of Twitter and why it's a problem. Twitter actually has a thing now. I don't know if you've seen it, but Twitter actually has a thing now where sometimes if it detects that you're writing an angry message, it will ask you to confirm that you actually, like, instead of just automatically tweeting, it will make you confirm that you actually want to send the message, to like force you to think about what you're about to send. What's up, NC? Would I make videos about D&D? Maybe about what unfolds in the campaigns you DM? I actually want to make content about D&D. I don't know how interesting it would be to people. But the problem is that making content on YouTube is a lot of work. And I already do a lot of work on my main channel, so I don't know how much effort I can spend on like another channel. I need to like hire a partner or something to help me make stuff. I mean, I have like an editor that helps with some videos, but well, it's my brother. My brother like edits a lot of my videos now, but I might need some more help. Yeah, actually, I should have checked the DMs, because it could have been possible that there was something, at least something that I didn't want people to see. I don't really be having scandalous conversations, but you know, some things are just private. Do you think people tend to have their own definition of what constitutes freedom of speech and cannot agree on what freedom of speech means? There's a level, I think, where there's disagreements about, I think people understand what freedom of speech is. There's disagreements on what speech should be protected by freedom of speech laws. Like, if you compare the United States to like Germany or something, or a lot of European countries, actually, the United States has much freer speech. Not to say that they don't have freedom of speech there, but you could get in trouble for saying things there that you would not get in trouble for saying things here. I think hate speech laws, I think, are much more strict in Europe in general, especially in countries like in Germany. Whereas, like, we have hate speech laws in the United States, but you have to meet a lot of criteria for something to be considered hate speech, to the extent that there's legal prosecution for it. And people disagree about what that should be. I tend to be more on the side of freer speech, but different people have different views. And I think these days, especially on the left, a lot of people are kind of disputing the entire concept of freedom of speech. A lot of people just don't even really agree that you should be allowed to say whatever you want to say, especially publicly, like on a large platform. And I mean, I think a lot of those arguments are compelling. I don't necessarily agree, though. All right, Walter, thanks for checking out the stream. Could you make D&D videos on your main channel? I could, I guess. I don't know if I will, though. Twitter is whack sometimes. I agree. Although I've put in a lot of work into improving my experience on Twitter. I actually outright blocked Twitter from my computer for like a year. I recently unblocked it because I just used Twitter for my job, so it was a little inconvenient. But I generally don't look at the Twitter feed that much. I have a list that I've created with just everyone that I know that makes tweets that are pleasant. But every now and then I look at my feed, and like I said, when I do, it's like what I said, where it's just a bunch of drama. But it's not politics anymore, which is good. But now it's just like D&D drama or like video game drama. But sometimes it's fine. It's not as bad because it's not people like being actively hateful most of the time. Like, what does it look like right now if I go to my homepage? I don't even know what this post is. Something about some podcasts. I do have a separate list just for news, but that's mainly for informational purposes. And then there's just people I follow because I think they're cool. There's a lot of wrestling stuff. Some of my like personal friends, people I know like in real life. Stuff like that. It's not just like a bunch of people arguing about politics anymore, which is good. Do I think I'll apply for affiliate in Twitch? I'm not sure, actually. I'm actually leaning towards no, because if you have affiliate, you can't dual stream. And I think that I want to continue to dual stream. But I also don't stream enough right now to get affiliate, which I know sounds wild because you don't really have to stream that much. But yeah, I don't stream enough to really get it. But I don't know, I like dual streaming. I don't want to have to separate it. Are there any videos currently in the oven? Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of video ideas and I'm working on my next video, which should come out, I think, like March 11th, I think. I need to check that though. I hope it's not the 4th, because otherwise that means I'm behind. I have to put out videos by a certain date for because I have sponsors. It is the 4th. Holy shit. I need to finish that video. So I have a video coming out on the 4th. But I don't really like to give away what the videos are about before they come out. Feels like a spoiler. Is this my only job? Yes. Seems arguments over free speech tend to get brought about whenever a celeb gets canceled. For example, many on the right said what Roseanne Barr said was free speech. Well, it was free speech, but the thing about free speech is free speech does not, the free speech laws does not mean that your job can't fire you. That's not what that means. Your job can fire you. Well, I was gonna say your job can fire you for whatever reason they want, but that's not technically true. But free speech just means you're not gonna go to jail, or you're not going to be recipient of government violence because of things you say. How people react to your speech is fair game. People are allowed to react to your, you know, freedom from speech is not freedom from consequences, as they say. So if you say some shit and your employer is like, oh, we don't want to associate with you anymore because you're saying crazy stuff on the internet, that's fair game, you know? And I always make that distinction because I am a big free speech guy. Like, I think people should be able to say almost anything without going to jail for it, or without being, you know, without being a recipient of violence for it. But that does not mean freedom from consequences. I think that in certain arenas, you can disincentivize certain types of speech because there are consequences for it. But again, generally that's fair game. Like, I have a Discord, by the way. You should join my Discord. Just go to theonejanitor.com/discord. And while in my Discord, within the context of my Discord, you definitely don't have free speech. There's a lot of shit you can't say or else you'll get banned. So it's like my Discord disincentivizes a lot of types of speech because you'll just get banned. But that's definitely by design. So if you look at that from a larger perspective, look at something like Twitter. There's a lot of shit you can't say on Twitter or else you'll get banned. And a lot of people think that's a violation of free speech, but you know, Twitter's a private company and they can run their site however they want. And to me, that's fair game. Some people think that shouldn't be fair game because Twitter is so widespread and so much of our public discussion happens on Twitter. And I think that's an interesting argument, but I don't necessarily agree. I'll just resubscribe on YouTube and pretend I have a founder's badge. I don't know. I'll think about it. Because honestly, the main reason to become a Twitch affiliate is for an additional income source. But I don't really have enough Twitch followers. I would be really surprised if anyone subscribed at this point. Maybe if I had a bigger audience on Twitch, I might consider it more closely. You do a lot of content on how black people or culture interacts with white or white dominated society. You think you'll touch on inter-minority conversations for a full video? Well, I've done it at least once. I've done a video about colorism. The video is called "This is Colorism." If you haven't seen it yet, it's actually one of my most popular videos. But outside of that, I mean, it just depends on if there's a topic that I have an interesting angle about. But yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all. I think those kinds of things are interesting as well. All right, Shiloh, thanks for checking out the stream. But the person who is making my boss care about the misstep are those who created the consequences. Wait, what? I mean, I don't think it matters as long as the person who is making your boss care about it is not the government. If it's the people that makes your boss care about it, then that's fair game. I think your boss has the right to, and in many cases probably should, care about how people react to their employees. There's an interesting argument for the government having more laws sanctioning speech rather than leaving it up to business like Twitter. That, of course, that's extremely risky. Yeah, that's so. I don't think that governments should be like directly controlling social media sites like Twitter, but I do think that governments should put pressure on companies like Twitter to make sure that their sites aren't causing harm to the world. And how that actually looks, you know, obviously is very complicated, and I don't have all the answers for that. But yeah, I mean, there is a interesting argument. No Ceilings is my favorite Lil Wayne release. I mean, that's pretty, I might agree with you actually. Free speech is not the same as protected speech. Example of protected speech is like talking about unions on the job. Most jobs are not allowed to fire you for that. Well, so, I mean, yeah, usually when you have these conversations, we just have to make sure we understand what we're actually talking about. But the general argument about free speech is, you know, about whether the government should be able to punish you for things that you say. In smaller contexts, there may be things that, you know, that the government, types of speech that the government protects, but yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of repeating the same thing that you said, but they're two different things. I have no idea what anyone here looks like, and I do not intend to guess. Pineapple on pizza. There, I said something offensive. Pineapple, I mean, I think pineapple, the whole pineapple on pizza thing is it's a good meme. But I suppose it's fine. I don't think I would ever intentionally order pineapple on pizza. But this is the thing, like, this is how I know Well, I won't say that, but like, I think I've maybe just had too much pizza in my life because I'm not even excited about pizza anymore. I think what I need to do is start making my own pizza, and then maybe I can just like really make it good and make it the way in a way that will make me excited about it. But these days, like when there's pizza or when pizza is an option, I don't even really want it. It's like, yeah, I'll take it, whatever. It's not the best. I think people would subscribe to you on Twitch. I don't know. I mean, because nobody even watches me on Twitch. And that's like right now I have 3 viewers on Twitch. And that's because I didn't really spend a lot of time building an audience on Twitch. And also because it's kind of impossible to build an audience. Not impossible, but it's very, very hard to build an audience on Twitch. Cats, dogs, both other. If I have to choose, I would choose dogs for sure. I don't necessarily want pets though. It's not really my particular thing. But dogs are cool. I like other people's dogs. I think cats can be cool, but usually they're not. Most people's relationships with their cats are essentially abusive relationships where the cat is the abuser. And the people just kind of let them get away with it because they're cute. But I have met 1 or 2 cool cats. I will acknowledge that. I have not followed the Professor Flowers Vosh debate at all. When you had too much of any food, it just doesn't feel like a treat anymore. Happened to me with ramen. I ate ramen so much it's not as good to me anymore. Yeah. I definitely understand that. But there are some foods that I don't get tired of. Like I could eat fucking chicken fingers every day. I've had chicken fingers at least as much as I've had pizza, and I still love that shit. Especially if they're like really good, juicy, thick ones. Excuse me. It's my allergies. I think my room is dusty. I think that's the problem. I need to like dust my desk and shit. Just left YouTube stream, so I'd be number 4. Okay, I appreciate it. I'm not a Twitch person. It's largely for gaming. These days, I mean, I would say largely for gaming is probably a correct way to put it, but there's definitely a huge aspect of it that's not gaming. There's tons of, you know, just chatting streamers. There people do art streams, people do music streams, people do cooking. There's a lot. The political community on Twitch has been growing lately. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Twitch. But there is a disproportionate focus on gaming. I will acknowledge that for sure. Where am I from? I'm from Alabama, USA. Would I ever do would I ever want to do a TED Talk? I don't specifically want to do a TED Talk. I don't know what I would do a TED Talk about, but if they asked me to do a TED Talk, I'd probably do it. I'd probably figure something out. I don't really have a lot of public speaking experience. so I'm not sure that I would be very good at it, but I should probably like practice. In fact, I think I'm pretty bad at public speaking. Doing these streams is kind of practice, but whenever I like watch back these streams, I'm like, man, I'm really bad at talking. Like I say a lot, and I like pause a lot. I think I pause way too much when I'm talking. Yep, it says I have 4 viewers now on Twitch. I have to admit I raised my cat very poorly. One will crawl into my lap, curl up, start purring, and then we'll usually swipe at my face in case I forgot my place. That sounds like a cat. If I had more Twitch followers, what would I do over there? Well, at the moment, I enjoy doing the dual streams. I think that works out. I mean, I might do more gaming over there if more people were over there to watch, because my YouTube audience is generally not here for gaming. And whenever I do, because I do gaming streams every now and then, and whenever I do them, the viewer numbers are way lower than normal, because it's just, you know, that's just not why people subscribe to this channel. So I could maybe use Twitch for that instead. Do you feel any that your live streams are themselves a sort of podcast? Like you feel like you're doing a podcast talking to us on your live stream? It doesn't feel like I'm doing a podcast. It just feels like a conversation to me. It feels like hanging out. It doesn't really have much of a structure. It's just kind of just chatting back and forth. Least/most favorite things you've done for money. Well, the most favorite thing I've done for money is what I do now, which is make videos. Least favorite thing I've done for money. I've worked in a call center before. That sucked. I don't know. That's probably the least favorite thing. I can't think of any like job I've had that I liked less than that. Public speaking, like everything, is effing complicated. I agree. Obama paused and said all the time, and he's considered one of the best public speakers of the past 15 years. That is a very good point. I do think there's a level of which it becomes too much pausing, but I do think that's a good point. Do you have the impression that the general public is getting more left-wing? I guess it depends on how you describe left-wing. I think I think people are becoming more progressive? Do I think that people are becoming more anti-capitalist? No. But do I think people are becoming more socially progressive? Yeah. I've thought about starting a podcast, but again, that's more work. If I could get someone else to edit the podcast and put it together, and all I have to do is show up and make it, then I would definitely do a podcast. So maybe if I can find someone to help me out in that way. Any call center stories? Um, I don't really have any like super long stories. I had to call a dude that ended up being dead one time. That was very awkward, and the person on the other line, on the other end, did not appreciate it. And sometimes the names that you get are pretty interesting. Like I had to call someone named Ronald McDonald one time. And I had to call a couple whose first names were Bella and Edward. Sometimes people have funny voicemail messages. What do you think about Doja Cat? I actually like Doja Cat. I like her music. Also, I think she's cute. Do random white ladies ever come up to you and ask you to touch your hair? Yes, absolutely, all the time. Some of them don't even ask. Obama had lawyer written all over how he talked, and you could see him organizing his thoughts beforehand into my point A, B, C, and sub point 2. I mean, that's kind of how my brain works as well. I kind of always try to organize my thoughts together before saying them, and that's what's happening during the pauses. But I just feel like it gets excessive, and I try to. I well, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but yeah. I sometimes try to intentionally avoid the pauses, because I looked up some advice about public speaking and how to avoid saying and stuff, and one of the pieces of advice that I got, which is actually someone earlier said that pauses are underrated, but one of the advice was said, instead of just saying just pause, just acknowledge the pause, like don't be afraid of the pause. But yeah, whenever I see, like, I've been on a few people's podcasts and I've been on people's YouTube channels a couple of times, and whenever I watch it back, I just feel like the way that I talk is just hard to follow sometimes. But maybe I'm just being, too hard on myself. I actually didn't catch Sorry to Bother You. I need to watch that. But if I did a TED talk, it would absolutely be pre-written. So it's not like I would be coming off the cuff. So it would probably come off a lot better. Am I gonna stream Guild Wars 2 when the new expansion drops? I didn't even know people still played that game. I'm sure I'll check it out. I don't know if I'll stream it. We'll see though. Maybe I would be a good lawyer. When I was a young kid, I used to say that I wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. And I think getting involved in politics online has really made me dislike debating, just dislike the concept of debating. But when I was younger, I really enjoyed having debates with people, and I still like having discussions with people, and I like seeing ideas. Like I like debates in theory, but in practice, they're usually pretty obnoxious. But I really enjoy the idea of debating people like in theory. And when I can have like a private debate with someone, it's usually pretty entertaining and interesting to me. But the idea of like public debating is pretty obnoxious most of the time. Why do you think is black people are so hyper focused on race compared to other races? I don't know that I agree with the assertion that black people are more focused on race than other races. I think that everybody is pretty focused on race, in America at least. I think black people and people of color in general probably have to think about race a lot more because they are constantly reminded of the fact that they're not white. But I think whenever white people interact with people who aren't white, they are very conscious of race in those moments. But I can only speak for the United States. I don't really know how it works in other countries. Being a lawyer is less debate and more research, and then presenting a narrative to a judge or jury is not allowed point by point refutation like debate is. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of both. But yeah, I mean, it's not an outright debate. But I mean, it also depends what kind of lawyer you are and what kind of cases you're doing. But probably in high, like skilled lawyers, they generally don't intend to outright debate the other lawyer. That's probably like a inefficient strategy. But I think that debate tactics are useful to lawyers for sure. But I'm going to start winding the stream down. Got a few things I want to get done today, so we can probably respond to a few more comments / questions in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I haven't checked out your stream in a while. Have you tried any other RPG systems beyond D&D? Yeah, I've played a lot of different ones. But there's still many that I haven't tried, so I'm still on a journey to try out different stuff. But yeah, I played Vampire and World of Darkness stuff. I played Call of Cthulhu. I played some Powered by the Apocalypse stuff. I played Dread. And there's some others I can't think of right now, but there's definitely a lot that I haven't played. Gotta get that video out by the 4th. Yep, definitely. But I mean, I got 2 weeks. That's plenty of time. And I've already been working on it. So, how do you feel about people who see mixed race relationships as a threat to their identity / community? Well, I mean, I don't agree with those people. I don't really understand the argument. I don't know how what else other people do affects your personal identity. And I also I don't really think that the extension of your race or whatever is very important. I don't think it matters whether or not your race continues to live on or whatever. I don't find that very important personally. But at the end of the day, if two people get together, that's their business. I mean, it's not you don't really have the right to tell them that they're not allowed to do that. That's silly. When you first started making videos, did you ever expect to get 281 subscribers? Back when you got mainly like 100 views on each video. Did I ever expect to get 281K? I guess I didn't expect it, but I don't think that I assumed it would never happen either. But I will say it did feel very surreal once the channel did start to get popular or get more popular. But I think once I got to around like 20,000 or 50,000, I was like, oh, there's endless potential here. So at that point, I kind of knew that, if I made the right decisions, I could probably keep succeeding. But back in the very beginning, I don't even think it was on my radar, Like back in the very beginning, there were people I followed who had like 2,000 subscribers, and I thought that was amazing. I was like, yo, that person has 2,000 subscribers. That's so many. Like, that person is doing well. So it wasn't even on my radar, Like, back in the day, the people who had like over 100,000 subscribers, those were like basically the celebrities, I mean, I can't even think of like back when I was I've been on YouTube for a very long time, which I don't know if a lot of people know that, but when I had only like a few hundred subscribers, the people who had more than 100,000 were people like Vlog Brothers and like Lisa Nova and like Community Channel, and those were people like they were just on another planet than me. I was like, yeah, those are like the celebrities. Like that's not even in my universe right now. I can look at the dude who had like 2,000 and be like, okay, that's maybe I could reach that one day, but fucking Community Channel, no way. But now I feel like anything is possible now. I mean, maybe things like PewDiePie level, that still seems like Mr. Beast level, that still seems like another universe to me. But people that have like 1 million subscribers, a couple million, that seems possible, given the right strategy and given enough time. That seems possible to me, especially now that people who are in the same genre and in the same community and people that I know personally have reached 1 million subscribers, like people like Lindsay Ellis and ContraPoints and stuff. Those are people that kind of do similar things to what I do, so I know for a fact that it's possible. But yeah, it's stuff like Mr. Beast and PewDiePie, that kind of level, that still seems a little bit out of control. And I think it is. Like the vast majority of people aren't going to get to that level. You have to have a very specific type of mass appeal, I think, to get like tens and tens of millions of subscribers. When's my birthday? My birthday is May 29th. When did I stop watching The Simpsons? I don't know. I mean, I still catch it like every once in a blue moon. As someone who's been following a while, it's been fun to see the growth. It's been fun for me too. I appreciate you for sticking around. If you've been watching for a while, then you've seen different evolutions of the type of content I make. Lisa Nova, that was a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I started my channel. So I created my YouTube account in 2007. I would say that I became a YouTuber, like a person who made videos consistently, probably 2009, 2010, around that time. So the people that were big around that time were people, I think Lisa Nova was still big. I think Smosh was big back then. Community Channel for sure. Vlogbrothers for sure. There was like people like The Hill 88 and like Lonely Girl 15, I think was before that, but you know, that kind of stuff. And then when I started getting traction around like 2013. That's when I really started to gain, you know, thousands of subscribers. And I think that around that time was people like Grace Helbig and I think PewDiePie started blowing up around that time. I'm like forgetting people's names, but yeah. So yeah, I've been around for a while, basically, is the point. Do you care if I call you by your real name? Not really. You can call me by my real name as long as you understand that you don't actually know me. Because I think sometimes they call you by your name. People call you your name because they want to like try to be familiar, but like, I don't know, don't be weird. But yeah, that's fine. Do I think Simpsons will go on forever? Well, it definitely won't go on forever. It doesn't really have any reason to stop anytime soon, but there's definitely going to be a day where they're going to be tired of making The Simpsons. I have no idea when that day is, but it's going to be a big deal. Patrick Henry was also May 29th. That is true. Also, John F. Kennedy, I believe, is May 29th. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. Yeah, John F. Kennedy. I see very little mood lighting for a stream that was just compared to ContraPoints. You clearly haven't seen some of my other streams because I definitely have the lights. I just didn't feel like setting them up. Would you ever live stream one of your D&D games? I have actually live streamed a D&D game before, but just once. I could do that. I probably wouldn't live stream my home game because a couple of the people have already vetoed that. They don't want the game to be streamed. But if I could get, you know, some other people together that would want to do a live stream game, I could maybe do that. Is it okay for non-black people to say the N-word in song lyrics? Well, I don't want to, you shouldn't use my opinion as the opinion of all black people. Personally, I don't give a shit. I feel like I've got better things to worry about. I will say it's a bit cringe. So from that aspect, I'd rather people do it just because it's cringe. But I know that a lot of people don't like when people do it. So you're gonna have to just use your discretion if that applies to you. I considered starting my own morning talk show. I don't know about that. I'm rarely even up in the morning. Who are some current YouTubers you've been enjoying lately? I watch a lot of YouTube videos about niche subjects. So I've been watching a lot of chess videos and a lot of D&D videos and a lot of videos for like video games lately, mostly Street Fighter because I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter. So it's just channels related to that. I always say that Vlogbrothers is probably my favorite YouTube channel, and I always watch all of their videos. But that's kind of what I've been watching. So I'm watching like Hikaru and Gotham Chess. Those are chess channels. I'm watching like Brian F, who's a Street Fighter content creator. And, you know, I watched Critical Role, Dimension 20, that kind of stuff. Will there ever be life on Mars? Probably. I mean, there may be life on Mars already. We just don't know yet. But are you asking like, will we ever move to Mars? Will there be like human colonists on Mars? Probably at some point. How long have I had my locks? Like 12 years? What is the meaning of life? I think the meaning of life is whatever purpose you have decided that fills your time here on like with joy. I don't think there's a specific meaning. I think everyone sort of determines their own purpose. Do I play chess? I do play chess. I mean, I've been technically been playing since I was a kid, but you know, I've been playing on and off, and there was probably a good like 5-year stretch where I didn't play at all, but I play a few games online almost every day. I'm not super good or anything, but it's fun to play. What was the hardest game that you played and beat and felt accomplished when beating it? I don't know, maybe like Super Mario 3 on the NES. These days, if a game is too hard, I don't finish it because it's like too frustrating. I play a lot of competitive games though, and competitive games are usually hard because you're playing against other players. So those are very rewarding to me. So like I said, I've been playing Street Fighter. It's very rewarding when I beat people in Street Fighter because it's a challenge, because people across the world are pretty fucking good. So it's very fulfilling when I win. I have played Lost Ark. I've been playing it a little bit. What are your thoughts on Lindsay Ellis getting canceled and quitting YouTube? I think it's a shame, but I also think that she should do whatever she needs to do for her own health and safety and mental well-being. But I think the reason that the Lindsay Ellis story is like one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen on the internet. It was one of the most nonsense controversies I think I've ever seen. And the fact that it ended up with her having to leave YouTube is so sad, because it wasn't even a real controversy. But I think her quitting YouTube, I think that was sort of the catalyst, but I think that she had been dealing with a lot of stress and things like that in general outside of that. And I think that was just kind of like what pushed her over the edge. But I think there were other factors as well. But I, I I might be a little biased because I really like Lindsay Ellis, and like outside of just being like one of the best fucking content creators, she's also just a really good person. And I don't like when bad things happen to good people. I never said this before. I don't think, but I've saw a lot of. One thing that's really cool about Lindsay, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Lindsay, is really good about using her platform and her resources and her connections to help other people and to help other content creators. And she's actually done that for me. And a lot of my, I don't know if I want to say a lot of my success, but like, I'll say part of the reason that I'm able to do YouTube as a job is because of Lindsay Ellis. And I don't think I've ever said that before, but I think people should know that Lindsay is just that type of person. Like she helps other people out. And that's why it's kind of sad that she's gone or whatever, or that she left YouTube, because I think she's super cool. Lindsay Ellis is just she's a big YouTuber that does film and TV analysis on YouTube, and it's really good, and she's like really talented and funny and stuff. But she recently got into, like a public outrage campaign against her, which among other things caused her to apparently quit YouTube. And I saw other people on Twitter who were talking about ways that Lindsay Ellis kind of shouted them out or helped them out too. So it seems like that's just something that she does. So that's cool. Do I ever read the Guinness books or collect them? I used to read them because I used to work at the library, and we would get those books, so I used to look in them there, but I haven't looked at them in a while. But I think I am going to go ahead and end the stream though. Thanks to everyone for checking out this stream as usual. I got a video coming out, should be March 4th, so look out for that. If you are interested in my Discord, just go to thejanitor.com/Discord, or you can just hit !Discord and the link will pop up in the chat. It is just a cool chill little community where people are discussing various topics. It's dope. Outside of that, just hit me up on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. You can just check out the description below the video or the information below the video for like all my links and shit. And thanks to JH and No Way for the super chats. But I guess that's it. I might stream again on Friday, but we'll see. That's the goal though. But regardless, I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.